All right, you ready to go?
All right. Welcome everybody to the Wednesday night tour class. It's sometimes on Thursday nights and sometimes on Tuesday nights. We're going to study Torah for the sake of Torah itself, for the sake of heaven tonight. And if you remember from last week, we were discussing the Hishtalshelut, which is the bliss of expansion and contraction. More so than that, before I begin, I was also given another rabbinic warning. And so anytime that happens, I want to pass it on to y'all. Because of the nature of this information, this is the reason it's not taught. This is the reason nobody alludes to it. This is the reason why they just say, yeah, and go on. Is because of the nature of the human mind wants to do what we all in here want to do. And that is start at the beginning and map it out and diagram it out and say, okay, you go from A to B, from B to C, from C to D, and you have this nice walk down the park of how it all happens. And which came first, the chicken or the egg, you know? And whenever you do that, it's the there's somebody at the back door, Stacy. Would you go grab it, please? Come on in. Whenever you do that, you bring the ultimate price upon your head and the ultimate sin upon you. You create a bodazoa, which is idolatry. So, when we're going through and we're teaching this, although we have lessons in order, and I'm trying to go in order, remember there is no order. Because order, that's why God is one. You cannot separate something out from God and say, oh, this is God. Everything is just a part of God. It's oneness. And in other words, if you're looking on the inside of an orange, it's all orange. Every piece of that orange is just a part of the orange. Nothing exists but the tennis ball, just like we always talked about. There's nothing but that. Okay, John, I got you. All right. And so, as we discussed last week, this whole creation process, what we're going to study today is there's some terminology that I really don't care if y'all know, because it doesn't. Although it helps you if you're a Torah scholar, for the sake of this class, it's moot, doesn't make any sense, because it's Hebrew words that we don't know. And my rabbi was telling me that one thing is, when you teach Torah, if you don't say the words correctly and you don't do all this, then you're considered an ignoramus, even though you know the material. That is in the formal Torah lecture style class. And I told him, I said, I understand that. I said, what you have to understand coming from a Gentile world is that's not my language, it's not my religion. And I don't care if it's Abba or Abba. To me, it's Father, and that's where we're going, because it doesn't make any difference. It only makes any difference if you're trying to be scholarly. And because...
Or if there's no translation for the word.
It's not what it is. What is its intent? I'm really after what is the intent of the scriptures, and the intent of the Torah is to get to know God. And so whether I bought your word or y'all bought your word, it doesn't matter. What we want to know is what's going on, and that's the essence of what we want to know. because we're not going to be teaching Jews. You know, Jews are going to teach Jews, Gentiles are going to teach Gentiles. The Gentiles, although if we say a word, we want to, if we know it to the best of our knowledge, you know, we don't want to call it the Shekinah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we want to call it the Shekhinah, because there's certain proper things that we need to address properly.
Mm-hmm.
That being one of them. You know, Shekhinah. All right. So, and if you don't put the, you ain't saying it anyway. All right. Now, as we'll move on here, we're at a spot where we have to introduce Metatron. Yes.
I interrupt a minute.
Hmm?
My pen broke. Does anyone have one I can borrow?
Yeah, we'll find you a pen. We have to introduce Metatron.
Here's one.
Thank you.
And I spoke with Chad, and I think you two newbies here, Chad, this will be something very new to y'all. It's very crucial. It's very crucial. It is one of the most hidden things and concealed things in all of Torah. For those who have been in the class, we have visited this before, and we will go through it. Some of the terms, the halal, the empty space, that God had to create this empty space within the light. The halal is the empty space. The tzimtzum, the withdrawal and contraction. The tehiru, which is the supernal light. So as I start reading through some of these things, what I'm going to say is the English term, the hard spark, or
which refers to,
or the supernal light. And what I'll try to do is talk about the Hebrew word, but if we don't know what it is, then it won't make any sense. The Reshimu, I believe is how you say it, Reshimu. This is the echo of light, or it's the residue. And the residue becomes very important. There are what's called the letters. This is really the formation of thought in the mind of God. These are the Ralah, Sha'arim, the 231 gates. That's what the 231 gates are. The Olam HaMalbush, the Malbush is the garment layers that they make. And then we're going to go into the lights that emanate out of Adam Kadmon, out of Ak. And they abbreviate it Tanta, Tanata, or Tanta.
can you say that again?
T, big T, little a, big N, comma, T, big T, comma, A. And this is one of those, I don't know what you call it, anagram, or for ta'amin, which is the sound. And then the nekudot, which is the vowels. And the tagin, which is the crowns. Otiyot, which is the letters. And these are the things that emanate out of the ears, nose, mouth, and eyes in that order of Adam Kadmon. But before we get to that, we have to deal a little bit with the hard spark, with the first of creation. Now, we know the Torah was the first of creation. Guess what? Moses' staff was created before creation. Gehenna was created before creation. The name of the Messiah was created before creation. Bilam's donkey was created before creation. There's lots of things that were created before creation. So we can never say, oh, well, this was first. Or that was first.
Was there anything made that was made after creation?
Yeah. So everything has a space and a spot. Now, I'm going to read from the Zohar. Holy One, the secret of Binah. Does everybody remember which sphere is Binah? Keter top, Chokmah's on the right, Binah's on the left. Holy One, secret of Binah, desired to create the world. Zeranpin and Nukva. Zeranpin is the 6th, Nukva is the 7th. So here we see the iteration of 6, 7. 6 days, Sabbath day. 6 days, Sabbath day. Desired to create the world, Zeranpin and Nukva, which is earth. Looked into the thought. This is the secret of Chokmah. So you see he's thinking, right brain, left brain, which is the secret of Torah. And looked down the records, and took down the records. He recorded and drew the light of Chokmah to make male and female, but the world was not able to exist. Then he created repentance and guarded the secret. Who guarded the secret? What's the secret? It's the first thing I ask myself. And there, in the secret chambers, the letters, which are male and female, are engraved, so they could prepare to receive the mochin, which is the brain, the thought. As the chambers were created, he looked into the chamber and drew figures, namely the mochin, that exist in the entire world. He desired to create the heavens, Zeranpin, and he looked into the first light, Abba and Ima, Chokmah and Binah, and covered himself in it, the garment of light. This is the Malbush. So you see, as the Zohar, they're hiding, even though the Zohar is telling us everything, it's still all encrypted.
Mm-hmm.
He studied how to create the lower world, Nukva, that needs the light of Zeranpin. So he created another chamber and entered it. See, these chambers he's creating are, every time he penetrates, he's creating a new realm, a new chamber. Boom, 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 boom. Whether it's Nefesh, Ruach, whether it's the levels of the soul, or levels of, the Yetzirah, the Asiya, all these different levels. All this is expounding every time he moves. From inside, he looked out and drew in from himself all the worlds below. So see, now he's contracted. All the quality of Mochim, the number value of Hay, Samik, the points. See, now he just jumped over into Nakudim. Everything was in the Mochim, the thought here in Akudim, and then it jumped over here in Nakudim to make the point. See how it's moving? All the worlds that existed before him, which is Nukva, which is 65 points. 60. These are the 6 Sphirot of Guvarot, Hesed, Teferet, Netzach, Hod, and Yesod. Each include the 10. That's why they're 60. 5 are half of Malchut. She lacks the last 5 from the chest down. He recorded the 65 points of Nukva in order to bestow on her his abundance, for the reason, the glory of the Holy One, blessed be He, namely the Shekhinah, which is destined only to those who know His ways and go along with them in a true manner. While He was talking to them, fire encircled them. Now, this whole language is metaphoric, but try to picture what's swirling around in the thought of God. Fire encircled them, and they remained sitting outside. They heard a voice call out, "O you holy man, The king has brought me to his chamber. To all those chambers, those keys have been given to the favored holy lad, Metatron, who is called Lad. And all are ready for you and for those who achieve merit through you. And in your life, holy man, all of the host of the heavens will be glad and rejoice in you. This was the voice of the Shekhinah. So,
Who are they talking to when they're saying holy man? Who's he addressing?
he is addressing Metatron.
So they're addressing Metatron when they're calling him holy man, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I just wanted to clarify.
Metatron is the beginning of creation. If let's look at it like this. There's a computer program. He's the computer, he's the computer program, and he is the computer programmer. All right. Now I'm going to I'm going to jump for 1 second and go into the halal, the empty space, and we will continue. Now back to halal, the empty space left after the Ein Sof vacated it. Remember that no space can ever be really empty in the Ein Sof. And even the halal itself is not exactly empty. Rather, the Ein Sof left an echo of light there. This echo, Reshimu, this is the residue that we spoke of earlier. The Zohar calls it Teheru, the supernal light. So within the empty space, he leaves a residue of light there, and this is called the supernal or supernatural light. Okay? It is within this supernatural light, left over from the Tzimtzum withdrawal of the light, the Ein Sof, that the letters of the Hebrew Aleph Bet first come into being. Now, we're going to see in a minute, the reason I started with Metatron is because we saw the light emanating in his thought through the Zohar. And now, Bar Tzedok is going into the actual function of what happened. But what we're going to see in a minute is that the Aleph is Metatron. That the letters of the Hebrew Aleph Bet first come into being. 22 letters from Aleph to Tav form the first Aleph Bet. This begins the next one beginning with the Bet and ending in the Aleph. Then comes the third one beginning with the Gimel and ending with the Bet. You see how it's making rows of itself? Mm-hmm. And these are the gates. These are the 231 gates. It's making the gates. But, see, Metatron's before the gates because he's the Aleph of the whole thing. Within all of them are the 231 letters. This then is the Ra'lah Sha'arim, the 231 gates of letters through which all of creation is formed. And every letter is formed out of the Aleph. And that's formed out of the Yud, which is the beginning of the letter, the beginning of the tip of the tip of the tip. This, according to Rabbi Israel Sarun, are the worlds of Adam Kadmon. Throughout his works, he discusses there's another two terms here, Agulim, which are the spheres, and the Yosher, which are the columns. So this light is emanating, making spheres and columns. which form Adam Kadmon. This teaches that the light comes forth from within Adam Kadmon to form the tanta that we described earlier, which is the sounds of the letters, the
You talking about the sounds of the vowels?
and the sounds of the vowels, and the creation of the crowns, and that whole deal.
Okay.
These are the musical sounds, the vowels, the crowns, and the letters. In other words, the light that comes from Adam Kadmon is already in the form of letters. Yet nowhere does Rabbi Chaim discuss from where did these letters originate. Therefore, we see that his subtle omission of the origin of the letters signifies higher origins in worlds about which Ramheim will not discuss. Any discussion about the primordial letters must include the understanding of the Botzina, the Karnuta, which is the hard spark, which God engraved in the primordial Teheru, which is this residue empty space. The entire concept of Tsimtsum, a withdrawal of light, signifies the aspect that would later become known as God's judgment, as opposed to His grace. With the formation of Halal and the manifestations of the Teheru, God, in essence, created the other form of Himself. So God is just duplicating Himself, in a sense. Although this other is and always will be nothing more than an aspect of God, in other words, all apparent separations and distances from God are only from our personal point of view. From God's point of view, all is still one within Him. Nonetheless, the concept of withdrawal is the opposite of the infinite expansiveness of the Ein Sof. As such, God now has two opposing forces that express His essence. God exists in an expansive Ein Sof, and He exists in the contractive Teheru of the Halal. So He exists now as Adam Kadmon, because that is the light residue that was left over. He just left a piece of Himself in the space, and that piece of Himself is still Himself, but now.
So it's like a culture?
Yeah, he just took a piece of himself in a culture dish and made himself. But it is so far distant from himself. But yet, to us, it is God. It's way powerful. And I was thinking of a good way to describe all this. Let's just say you had a bucket of fish. Let's say you had fish in a front end loader, and you had a great white shark, and you had a dolphin, and then you had a trout, and then you went all the way down to a minnow. They're all a fish, all right. And underneath you had a big hole, and you had a fish net, but you had great big holes in this one, and littler holes in this one, and littler holes in this one, all the way down to a seine. And when you dumped creation into the hole, the big things would be caught by this net and so on. And as it fell down through the nets, which is the spherot, all they are is light filters. The only thing that would be in the bottom would be the minnow. But if you looked here, it would be bigger. If you looked here, it would be bigger. And here it would be bigger. And here it would be bigger.
What would
and here,
the minnow?
The fish.
The minnow would be bigger.
The fish.
The different fish are
well,
bigger.
yeah, but still they're fish.
It's still fish.
It's still fish.
I understand.
You see what I'm saying? But
it's not like you're looking through a telescope and you're looking at the minnow.
no,
Okay.
no. The minnow's still the minnow.
And he's still at the bottom.
Yeah, and you have a food chain. Well, that's the hierarchy of creation. Not only do we have a food chain here, There's an angelic food chain there. All right? Now, if you're in this realm, this fish is the most powerful fish. He can eat that fish. And that fish can eat that fish. But that fish can eat all the fish. Doesn't mean that this ain't a fish. And they all fit into one. They all come from the same origin. So that was kind of a thing I was thinking about how to explain that. What he was creating here was the process of Hug. As we talk about the dance of Hasidim and Guvurot, he created the other part of him, his dance partner. Thus we learn that God withdrew his light from the center point of the Ein Sof. However, the light was not really withdrawn. It was merely changed from expansive to contractive. At this point, the first aspect of God to manifest in an empty space, the halal, was the teheru, or the rishimu. This is the residue of the light of the Ein Sof. This teaches that this light was essential to manifest the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet, and what they formed first was the 10 essential names of the 10 Sfirot. All of this filled the halal. Yet between the halal and the light of the Ein Sof surrounded it, there had to be some type of border in order to prevent the light from the Ein Sof from seeping back into the empty space and filling it up again. Therefore, surrounding the halal was an aspect of light of the Ein Sof that also contracted further into itself. This aspect is called the malbush. This is the garment. This is the protective barrier to keep the light from leaking out. And this is the cloak that is spoken of. Without this boundary, the halal, the empty space, would have not maintained its integrity. This is discuss this concept of maintaining the boundary, and Rabbi Vital says that this is only a small empty space that exists to separate the two. The halal, therefore, had within it the supernatural light of the echo of the Ein Sof. And this is where the essence of the 10 Sfirot was manifest within the light. The Hebrew word for light is or, spelled Aleph, Vav, Resh. If the letter Yud, representing the 10 Sfirot, is added, the word or, light, then we have the word Aleph, Vav, Yud, Resh, which spells Avir, which is the Hebrew word for air. So this was an air barrier. There was if you want to call it that. This is the primordial air spoken of in the passage quoted in the early Zohar. Now, I want to briefly get into that. That's going to put us through the second lesson of 13, and it's taken us 4 weeks to get there. On to Metatron here. This is a very this topic will leave you really wondering who you are, what you are, who God is, what God is, why God is. But if you keep in mind what we just went through, that it is not the quote unquote opposite God, and I don't want to say just another God, but it is a no, it's not the backside by far.
Another aspect.
It's another aspect of God, but God had to start creating aspects of Himself until creation could exist within Himself without utterly just blowing up or being vaporized.
Absorbed.
Absorbed is a really good word. And so,
Absorbed by what?
absorbed by the light.
Things so.
Absorbed from the,
By the angel.
absorbed from, I mean, Adam's going to absorb you. And guess what? Adam Kadmon's going to absorb him.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what?
The food chain.
It's the food chain. All right? Now,
Forgive
Exactly.
me, Lord.
all right. Now, y'all remember last week when we read about the Sheshua and it says, I was the architect at his side? Plug Metatron in right there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Metatron's the architect. Metatron
You
is,
mean it wasn't Jesus?
wasn't Jesus, sorry to say.
Okay.
Sorry to say. Now, just as there's two forms or two modes of Mashiach, Mashiach ben Yosef and Mashiach ben David,
Mm-hmm.
okay, there are two modes of Metatron. And Metatron that's higher, and I don't want to say Metatron that's lower because that's really,
It's the female and male.
no, it's not female male. It's upper and lesser, higher and lower. But I don't want you to think of it as God is lower, because Metatron, the lesser Metatron, is God to you, as you know it.
Isn't that what the burning bush and Moses and that whole thing going
Yes.
on there?
Yes.
Does the lesser, higher and lesser or lower refer to function? They're-
Yes, function as we can relate to it. That's a good way of it. God has to go through a filter so that we can withstand Him. All right. If you look at it like this, Yud He Vav He Havaya is Metatron. The Vav in there is the lower Metatron. It contains the name. All right. Anytime you see the word angel of the Lord, it's Metatron. Anytime, and this is going to blow your mind, anytime you see the word Elohim in Scripture, Metatron. Anytime you see the word Hashem in Scripture, Metatron. Anytime that you see the word Adam in Scripture, Metatron. Now, let's discuss. This is a lot of information. I'll try to go through this and hit some of the high points so that you will see how pivotal this figure Metatron is. And the reason I want to cover it now is because that's where we are in the quote-unquote creation process.
Question.
Yes.
Okay, you just named off all of those pseudo names of Metatron. Is that the upper Metatron or the lower Metatron?
Yes.
Which one?
Yes.
Both?
Both.
Okay.
Yes.
That was Elohim, Adam, and
Would you repeat those? The angel of the
Well,
Lord, Elohim, Hashem, Adam?
I'm fixing to go through hundreds of them.
Okay.
Hundreds of them. Okay. Metatron is the angel who has access to the divine presence. He is the face of the Godhead. His name is Sarha Panim, the Prince of the Presence. Moses was called something Hapanim, which is Minister of the Face. Moses was Metatron, as in respect to Aaron. All right. Everything is in a hierarchy. Just look at it as that. Metatron, defined as Prince of the Present, he's the servant of the Holy One. He is sent by the Most High. He is called Na'ar, the youth. He is Enoch. Enoch was translated and was a removal of the Shekhinah from earth on the account that the earth had gotten wicked and sinful. So, Enoch is more than just this dude. He is the Shekinah presence of Metatron on the earth. He was always Metatron. Everything is just a fractal down from. It's not that Enoch was translated and put at the top of Metatron. That's where he started. He is the attendant of God's throne. He is the prince and steward of all the heavenly treasuries. He contains all the celestial secrets, cosmic forces, agencies, and all the divine secrets. He is endowed with all of the mysteries of creation, past, present, and future. The angelic ruler and judge of all of heaven, of angels and angelic princes. Before being appointed this high office, he had to be transformed from earthly human to celestial and angelic. Now, what they did right there is they just went from here to here, but it's all the same. Don't let that confuse you. He didn't start out here. They just jumped. His body was changed from flesh to fire, which is what it was in the beginning, as we read that a flame rose up. This is from the Zohar. A flame rose up from the left column. A drop rose up from the central column and was crowned by the right side of Binah, which that ascended and is now ascending, that which had ascended and then descended. So that's all going in the thought of God. The Holy One makes him sit on a throne similar to his own and gives him a curtain similar to the curtain spread over the throne of glory. Metatron is ruler over all the nations and all the kingdoms of the earth. He is the executor of all divine decrees on the earth. He is the lesser Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh, the little Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh, after the name of his master. Exodus 23 is referring to him. For my name is in him. Metatron is hereby indirectly identified as the angel of Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh. So anytime you see Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh, that's what it's talking about. He holds all the secrets of the Torah. He has 70 names. Metatron is a primordial being. I made him Metatron, strong or mighty at the time of the first Adam. One might read the statement as saying Metatron is connected, or he is the primordial man, he is the Adam Kadmon. Metatron is the teacher of souls of those who died in their childhood. He is the Prince of Wisdom. He committed all the secrets to Moses. He is the intermediary through which all secrets are brought down to man. He defends the rights of men to obtain these secrets against the angels, in general, who desire that the terrestrials should not be shown the mysteries. He's the Prince of the throne. He is the heavenly scribe, the knower of all secrets. He's the Prince of the world. He is the holder of judgments, and he is against the Klippa. He pleads the causes of the worlds of the heavenly tribunal. He's the authority over heavenly bodies, bidding them to be silent during the time of Kedusha. He is over all the planets and constellations. He records all the doings of the wicked. He is the keeper of all the books. He is the bearer of the divine name Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh. He is the one that spoke to Moses that says, come up to Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh and speak to Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh. He's the one that said, come up, and he is the one that he spoke to. This has been a part of Scripture that people have said for years. Well, he said, come up to the mountain and speak with Hashem. Well, who's he?
So Metatron said, come up and talk to me.
On the contrary, Moses prayed to the Most High that he would lead them. He said, if your presence will not go with us from here, then we will not go. God said, okay, sent Metatron. He writes down all the merits of Israel. Metatron is the intermediary between the Holy One and Moses, between the Holy One and Israel. Metatron is here in the beginning. He takes over functions for Michael, the Prince of Israel. It was Metatron who showed Moses the Holy Land. When the Holy One, after removing his Shekinah from the temple on account of Israel's sins, thereby making way for the destruction of the temple, was weeping for the sake of the Shekinah, having no longer any abode on earth over the calamity that had befallen its former abode and temple, then Metatron came, fell on his face before him, Lord of the universe, I will weep, but thou shalt not weep. He answered him, if thou dost not let me weep, I will at once enter the place where thou hast not permission. That's a pretty cool teaching, the secret place of the secret place. The place that Metatron has not permission to enter. In the same passage indicate the words of Jeremiah. But if he will,
have permission to enter.
Yeah.
The secret place?
Is that the?
No.
Is that synonymous
It's a
with
secret
Holy of
place.
Holies?
No, it's a secret place. And let me I'll get off for just a second and describe the secret place. It's always a secret place. Let's
So its location always changes.
yes. In other words, if you have a room here and there's a door right here and then there's a room right here, and this is my secret place. If I go into my secret place and you come into my secret place, I go into my secret place here. If you come in there, I go to my secret place. Because with Hashem, there's always a secret place. There's never not a secret place.
Meaning a secret place for him or
Yeah.
a secret place for us?
A secret
To meet
place for
with
him. No, a secret place for him. A place where only he
In other words, I think, if I'm understanding this right, the more we seek him, the more he hides.
Yeah.
So if we go into if we find his secret place, he goes into a secret place.
That's right.
And if we find that secret place, he goes into a secret place.
That's why we think he's hiding.
He is. Now, ask
did
yourself
you
the
get
question. Will you ever see God?
Mm-hmm. Well, will we ever see God?
Yeah, ask yourself that question.
Well, what part of it are we talking about?
It's in everything.
He says we'll see his backside, but he doesn't say we'll see his front side. Doesn't he? At least in the
It's
Tanakh.
it's going to be a perpetual journey. It's a perpetual journey now. It's going to be a perpetual journey in heaven.
So we just chase him.
Yep. That's the only way he can grow.
I find it interesting because it's like a rainbow. It's kind of like, the closer you get to it, the more
It more moves.
and you never really come up
No,
to
you
it.
never really get there.
You never really
Yeah.
get there.
You never really get there. Metatron is in charge of the temple of heaven. He's over all the rivers and the seas. Let me move on here. What time is it, people? I don't know.
About 6:50.
6:50. Okay, 10 minutes. I'll go quick.
Oh, you got more like
He
15.
he is over all the angels. He was the one that took care of Moses' soul at his death. He is called the Prince of Torah. He is seated on the throne in heaven, with the Most High seated on the throne of glory. He is the heavenly advocate, the pleader of all of Israel.
He's seated on the throne of heaven.
Yes, on the throne of glory. He is the head of the heavenly household. He is connected to the coming salvation and the Messiah. He is long-suffering and abundant. He possesses the divine, infallible name. He is appointed over the four camps of Michael, Gabriel, Uriel, and Raphael. He is the first letter Aleph, through which heaven and earth were created. He is the fundamental creative essence. That's big. He is the celestial choir master. The God of heaven and earth. Carries the divine name. I'll go through that. He is the one on the divine throne spoken of in Daniel 7. He is Sandalphon, which is the bottom aspect, which is Elijah, the prophet, was translated. Let's see here. He is the sword of Moses, emphasized as the knower, guarding, revealer of secrets, as the prince of the world, the cosmic power, the prince of presence, the prince of the throne, and of the Merkavah. We're going to get into the Merkavah here pretty soon because that is the essence of meditation. Let's see here. Metatron has access to 955 heavens. That's a bunch.
So is it like this
Yeah.
in spheres?
We're the center. And
How do we know that?
well, this is how we know that. This is how we know that. If do y'all remember the thing we looked?
This?
Yeah. Do y'all remember that thing we looked at last week?
The tunnel.
Where we've got see it says 6 7 6 7 6 7 6 7 6 7 6 7 6 7. This is the Shashua, the pulsating wave. All right. Everything is going to be created 6 days, rest 7. Everything is going to follow that pattern from the Ein Sof all the way down to our little bitty earth right here. Everything is going to iterate 6 7 6 7 6 7 6 7. When the spheres and the columns we talked about earlier were created, 6 7. When the letters of the 231 gates were created, 6 7 6. That pattern is going to keep going. Now, here's the 800-pound gorilla in the room. What happens when the Messiah comes? Because that's going to be the edge of that layer. The light is going to hit that layer and return again.
So it's almost recycling.
Recycling. Now, this whole thing is recycling. So are we going to... The big kasha question that most Torah people don't know is this. So, are we going to go through another 6 7?
Sure.
6,000 years? And a 7? And a 6,000 years? And a 7? And for infinity?
Deja vu.
All over again? Is it deja vu all over again? What makes us different than all the other layers of tohu of creation that have been since never not.
Well, isn't there after the seventh millennia? Isn't there the eighth and the ninth and the 10th, and we get more translucent as we go, and all this stuff.
Yes.
So that's.
But here's the deal. But here's the coolest thing the coolest thing ever. Guess what, people? We are it. We are the end of the line of never nots. That's what makes us so special. It isn't going to iterate and iterate 6-7 and 6-7 again.
How will it stop?
Every time it's 6-7, 7 is the malchut,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
7 is the malchut of every layer of creation that has never not been. Since the never nots were here. Well, guess what? Our earth, right here, right now, today, is literally the intersection in every dimension. Up, down, north, I mean, every point you can think that could be shooting into a center point, we are the culminations of the intersections of every malchut from never not. We are, because we're
You would be saying then that that's the center point of infinity.
we are the center point of infinity. Now, when Messiah comes, who is Adam, who is Abraham, David, Moses, who is Metatron, who is God, who is this whole thing that has been iterating out for billions and billions of years. When it comes, it will all start going not in the opposite direction, but like we really think it's going to be. Where you just go on and on and on and on in ultimate bliss. Because this is what he's been trying to do since never not.
So that crack that you talked about before is going to be
Done.
healed,
Yeah.
sealed.
Yes. Yes.
Repeat that for the people.
We are the tip of the arrow. We're the point of the arrow. We are the final tikkun. There is nothing after us, y'all. When we hit 7,000, kaflooey. So it's the Gentiles have never come to Torah since never not. Not like now, where we have Gentiles studying Kabbalah, studying Metatron, studying the Ein Sof. There's probably only a handful that have ever done that. Meaning probably Jethro and Eleazar and some of those guys. But yet we got that many people in this room and on the phone. I'm telling you, what is happening now is going to flip the lip from the outside to the inside in the movement of a torus. From the outside crust and pain and suffering and sickness of tohu to inside of perpetual bliss for never not. For never not. Now, Metatron has the keys to all 613 commandments. He's the guardian of the Shekinah, the guardian of the Holy of Holies. And he is against the Klipot. He guards all the celestial halls and all their splendors. He is the judgment. He is the judgment of all mankind. It It is he.
So it is he that we will stand before in the
10-4.
judgment.
Roger that. It is he appointed to give life to those who dwell in the dust. He's in charge of the resurrection. The spirits who are about to enter life on the earth. He assigns a star forever newborn to enlighten his neshama during his life on earth. After death, he can
Say that one more time.
he puts a star in heaven for every soul that is sent to earth to enlighten his neshama. That's why you stare at the stars. He is after death, he conducts the spirits and souls back to their places. He introduces the neshama on high and says, "Enter, enter." He is the chieftain of the angel Gabriel for the righteous of Israel, and for Samael for those outside of Israel. He is the angel of death. He is the world of comprehensive unity. All 10 Sphirot clothe themselves in Metatron in order to work through him in the world. The Malchut, the 10th Sphira representing the unity of the universe, rest in Metatron. He is judge of the world. He is judge of the head of the celestial Beit Din. He forgives judgment and decisions in all aspects. He unites himself in 2 attributes, justice and mercy. He is head of all the angels. Let's see here. It is Metatron who receives man's prayers. It is Metatron who showed himself to Moses and to the prophets. Metatron protects man against evil and against Klipot. Metatron is the shield of man. If only he remembers Metatron when he is in danger, he will be delivered and rescued. He's the holy advocate. I'm not going to go through that. That may confuse some people. He is called Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh, Elohim, Adonai, and Shaddai. He has 72 names. He possesses the 72 divine names. He rules over all that the Holy One has. Akatriel, the prince of Berea, Metatron, prince of Yitzhara, and Sandalphon, prince of Asiya. Did y'all get that?
You said it pretty fast.
Okay. Akatriel is the prince of Berea. Metatron, prince of Yitzhara. Sandalphon, prince of Asiya. But so they broke it down. Elijah, Metatron, Enoch. But it's all one thing. But
in the Spherotes,
yeah,
it's Malchut,
the middle.
or in
Yes, Sandalphon would be Malchut,
okay,
and the center is going to be
Zeranpin,
Zeranpin is going to be Metatron.
Metatron, and then
The top is going to be a Akatriel. Yeah, which is Enoch. When God says, "My presence shall go with you," he's talking about Metatron. Metatron is the one who showed himself to Moses at the burning bush.
who is that?
Metatron.
Yes.
He is the redeeming angel. He is the first of God's creation. He is the creative power of the divine word. He is the first emanation. He is Adam Kadmon. Metatron is the beginning of God's creation. He created the six letters, the word Metatron. Metatron is, again, Metatron is the first letter. Metatron carries the whole world. He is Yesod Olam, the pillar of the world. God created man in His own image, which means God created man in the image of Metatron. So as long as he is worthy, he carries the image of Metatron within himself. But when not worthy, the image of Metatron is exchanged by the image of Samael. In the image of Elohim. Read, in the image of Samael created he him. Metatron, the Shekinah, or the presence of the Shekinah in the world and in man. He is the first spirit man, who at the same time is the vehicle of deity, and is present in the righteous and in the last instant of all men.
So he's the creative spirit of God?
Yep.
That
You can
aspect-
say that.
That aspect. of
You can
God.
say that. You can say he is God.
I was going to say, he's taken over, it sounds like. What has God got to do if he's busy doing all this?
Metatron is his staff.
Emissary.
And when I mean staff like the Moses staff, and staff like a working staff. Those two staffs are one and the same. That's the Vav. The staff
Of
is the
authority.
Vav.
The staff of authority and the working staff are one and the same.
One and the same. One and the same. That's why Moses used the staff, because the staff represented Metatron, because the staff is a Vav.
Oh.
Of Yud-Hey Vav Hey.
Yeah.
The Vav is a 6. The 6 is Metatron. It's all, you see it all iterating itself out, how it's going all the way from heavens down to Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there was two, we'll end with this. I'll tell you how wicked the serpent got, who is Samael, Satan, whatever you want to say.
But did Metatron create them?
Of course. They are him.
Whoops, the
Now,
out.
Metatron is the ladder in Jacob's vision, on which angels were ascending and descending. So, who did Jacob fight with? Satan, Michael, or Metatron?
Yes.
Thank you, Russell.
Who? What did you say?
All three.
Yes.
Metatron, Michael, or who?
Satan. There are, we'll end with this.
Samael, really.
Samael, yeah, Samael. Metatron is called good and evil. Metatron is the tree of knowledge of good and evil. That is huge. Now, does anybody? I'm trying to remember. I read it in here earlier, but I wanted to move on. You remember the two? I want to call them sorcerers of Egypt. What were their names? Anybody remember right offhand?
Pharaohs.
Pharaoh's two guys. The two guys that built the golden calf. What were their names?
The ones that had the snakes.
Yeah. Yeah, those two.
I never said their
They
name.
were snake men.
Sure did. Oh,
On the news tonight, they said that the fires in Arizona were bringing out all these vipers and snakes, which was preventing the fighters from putting out the fire.
Mm-hmm.
They've
That's
been
right.
asleep all winter,
yeah.
and now they're
Well,
thrown into hell.
anyway, these, if you remember our previous teaching, Pharaoh had ascended all the way to Arikampin.
Where?
Remember? Had ascended all the way to a recompense. He was a way powerful dude. All right, he was, and the two his two henchmen had ascended. I want to say further up. They had ascended so high, Michael could not expel them. Metatron kicked them out of heaven. That's how much power they had drawn from that side. But you have to understand, it's all one and the same. Metatron is the prince of presence of the side of good. Samael is the prince of the presence of the side of evil. But Samael works for Metatron. Metatron is the angel at the bush. He is where was that?
So Jude 9, where it says when Moses was contending with, when Michael was contending with the devil
Yes.
over the body of Moses,
Yes.
he durst not bring a railing accusation against him, but said, "The Lord rebuke you." So he's talking about Metatron.
Yes. Yes, he is. Now, it's a very complex thing, but the reason I wanted to go over this today is because you see we threw a whole nother aspect of Torah, a person in there, let's call it. Threw a whole nother person in there, but guess what? He's in charge of everything. Guess what? He created everything. Guess what? He is everything.
He's the master computer.
Yeah. You know?
The opposite of beastman.
But there's Elohim and there's Hashem and there's the Ein Sof and remember, it's all a tennis ball.
It's all one.
It's all a tennis ball. Have y'all ever seen a disco ball? You know the old disco balls that used to go in a discotheque and the lights would shine and it would shoot all the.
Yeah.
Okay, if you took that disco ball, and if you took a jeweler's glass, and you looked at one of those squares, then you would see Michael. If you looked at another one of the squares, you would see Gabriel, or Uriel, or Akatriel, or you see what I'm saying?
Would you see Moses or any?
Sure. You'd see Moses. You'd see you. You're one of them.
Depending on the angle.
But and that whole thing is Metatron. All right. But guess what? They himself made that.
But the thing is when you think of that, and I mean this is such a big thought for the mind, is you've got to understand when you think of the tennis ball, or when you think of this thing, the disco ball, is the whole thing is the unique oneness of God.
Yeah.
And that, that is that, when you said, what does, God do if they do everything else? Well, God is.
So is
It's
the
not-
tennis?
yeah.
Is the tennis ball on the outside of the disco ball?
No,
No.
the tennis ball. I was just putting facets on the tennis ball.
Okay.
But guess what? They're inside the tennis ball. They're not on the outside of the tennis ball.
But when you grasp that, then you grasp the
It's a
unique oneness of
unique
God,
oneness. Yes.
then you get it.
And so whenever we go through and teach all this stuff, we teach about the spark, and we teach about the letters, and we teach about the sounds, and guess what? Light, there was black light. Why was it black light? Because black light contains every color. And so God had to create darkness to put it through a filter called a sphero so every color could emanate.
I thought white.
Black contains every color. Yeah. Yeah.
White light is just a.
If you get some paint, if you get white paint, red paint, yellow paint, orange paint, green paint, blue paint, and you pour it in a pile, you'll have black paint when you're done.
Okay.
Yeah. So, anyway, it's what we we're gonna end here, and what we've got to understand is as we go through this, I wanted to introduce Metatron here because it's huge. And think about it. Here's something interesting. You don't pray to Metatron, but Metatron receives your prayers. So pray to God, pray to Adonai, because his name is. You just don't use that name.
What name?
Metatron. You know.
No, you don't definitely pray in the name.
You know, you don't pray in the name of Metatron. You don't use that name. You know, pray to Elohim, Hashem, Adonai, whatever you're gonna do. Pray to God. Period. But what you're knowing in your mind is that God is receiving your prayer on whatever level He needs to pick it up at, and
But is it all going through Metatron?
everything goes through to Metatron, and everything goes through Metatron, and guess what? It all comes back down the same way.
So God is like the navel
Yeah, I mean,
of everything.
yeah, it's this. Look at it like this: it's more the spinal cord than the navel,
Right, God's the brain and the nervous system.
and
He is the nervous system.
Elohim. Metatron is the nervous system. He is the neural spinal network of creation.
Just like your body is, it takes information from the limbs of the body, it takes it up to the brain sends information from it out to the limbs of the body.
And
We are made in His image.
we are made in His image. And where does thought come from? Where does your own thought come from?
The mind or the brain?
Metatron.
Well, let's
What'd you say?
let's say
The
you're
mind or the brain?
well, let's say you're
Yeah.
driving down the road and you just get a thought
Yeah,
of,
oh yeah.
to make something unique.
Those new thoughts, those creative thoughts that just can't pop in.
That's the Ein Sof. But the problem is He exists there. Our thoughts don't exist until we think about them in the right brain. They go to the left brain, we start figuring out how to make it. And then as it goes to the middle brain, then it goes down our spinal cord, we start doing it. God's same way. Difference is, when God thinks it,
It is.
it was already done in His thought.
Mm-hmm.
You know? It was already done in His thought. And so
But does he have to hand it over to Metatron then for it to come into being?
it's all one thing. If He knows it, Metatron knows it. It's all one thing. We can't separate it out and say, well, God thinks it, and then He does it, and then this goes to this. It's all one thing. If the angel Michael showed up right now and started speaking to us, you'd swear on your grandma's grave it was God. And guess what?
It was.
It was.
Yeah.
But if Metatron then is the creative, like Shekhinah, to Ein Sof, but they're one, then he is the creative aspect of Ein Sof.
It's true. It's true. It's true. And He is like Zeranpin, like the masculine aspect. Shekhinah is like the feminine aspect. If you want to split it out like that, He is the body of the Shekinah. Is what He is. He's the body.
And that's why the Shekinah was at the burning bush. And He was at the burning bush.
He was the burning bush.
Because that was the body of
Right.
the burning bush was.
Right. Right. When you start thinking, and I don't know if y'all figured this out, but the last 4 or 5 weeks, I've been trying to get y'all conceptually thinking. Because once you change your way of thinking, then you're thinking like He's thinking. It's not a this or that. It's not a up or down. It's not a right or left. It's multidimensionality.
Yeah, it's not linear.
It's not linear. There's no time. It doesn't exist. So when we say, well, how long is it going to go for? Well, how long is no time? You know, that's how long we're going to exist.
We better get it right.
For never not. Well, the thing about it is, what God's doing today is He's learning just what we're learning. Because we are We are the tip of this nerve. Okay? Let me see your finger. Where did you feel that?
Right there.
No. You feel it in your brain. Your body doesn't feel, your brain feels.
Okay.
Does that make sense? This just, your finger just sent the signal to your brain.
And your brain's.
Because if I cut this nerve
Okay.
if I cut the nerve in that finger, you can hold a lighter under there and you won't feel it. Because you don't feel pain here, you feel pain in your head.
Okay, the brain is in, so, and my finger was Metatron.
No, your finger is you.
Well, Metatron's the one that sent it up to
Metatron is the nervous system that
Yeah.
sent it there. How can God know anything?
separate himself from.
How can God know anything unless you send it to him? He doesn't.
I call it the Helen Keller effect.
See,
It-
why does God need you? What do you buy someone
Who has everything?
who has everything? You can't. So why does God need us? That right there. God knows nothing without us touching, so he can touch himself.
That's like, so God hid himself from himself to show something new to himself, right?
That's right. God hid himself from himself to show something new to himself. When this happens, when I poke you with that pen, God's touching himself. So when I say, what is God doing right now? He's learning Torah with us. Is it that he does not know Torah? No, but he's
enjoying it.
where
Exactly.
where did we get it?
From him.
Yeah,
From you.
what are we doing? We're giving it back.
He's enjoying us enjoying it.
It's the loop. And guess what? The more we learn about him and the way he thinks, the more we know God. And isn't that the point? The point of Torah is to learn about God, to dig about God. And guess what? As soon as we think we got it, I've been like this, I know, for 10 years. As soon as I think I got something, poof, another layer.
He shifts.
Yeah,
Just
because he
ever so
goes
slightly.
into those secret places.
He goes from
Yeah.
one secret place to another. Okay,
And everybody wants his,
yeah,
what is it you call it, a cave? Man cave?
yeah.
Everybody wants their
Yeah,
man cave.
yeah, God's got an man cave infinity. All right, thank you for listening to the Torah class. Next week we're going to start lesson 3. Lesson 3, I will tell you a little bit, is going to be Adam Kadmon and creation of male and female in the 10 Sefirot. So for you two and for Chad that don't know a lot about the 10 Sefirot, this is a part of lesson 3, and so that's where we will go next week.
Okay.
Into that.
Repeat what we're gonna study next
Say
week,
bye.
the 10 Sefirot.
Bye.
The 10 Sefirot